Since 2003, this is the Sports Source, East Tennessee's #1 sports talk show.
Brought to you by Junk Be Gone and the Garza Law Firm.
With your host, John Pennington. The Sports Source starts now.
Good Sunday morning and welcome into the Sports Source. Big win for the Vols yesterday, 56-0 over an 0-3 FCS team. We'll talk minimally about Tennessee Tech and we'll spin it forward, look more at Florida and what's to come for this volunteer team moving forward. As we get into this show, I did want to say thank you, though. Last week, you've given us huge ratings for years, which I appreciate. Year 19, that's all due to you. Last week, as an example, we were not only the most watched post-game show in the local affiliates, we were the most watched pregame show, and we were the most watched college football program, including all the games last week. So here's a show that talks about college football, and because of your loyalty, there were more people watching this show than watching actual football games on the local affiliates last week. So thank you very much. That's unbelievable. Let's get into it. First segment of today's show, brought to you by our friends at Junk Be Gone. Whether it is your home or your office that's cluttered with junk, whether you can load it up or need help loading it up, Junk Be Gone is the team to call for cleanups. Heck, they'll even do your paper shredding for you if you need it. JunkBeGone.biz is where you can go to learn more about this terrific local company, Junk Be Gone, a group I use every single year. All right, let's welcome in the panel for today. We have VFL Will Overstreet right here. Will, thanks.
Nope.
From WNML AM and FM, we have Jimmy Himes, Josh Ward. Thanks to both of you guys for being here.
Thank you.
And down there, from his home, we have longtime sports writer Bob Hodge. Bob, thanks for joining us. All right. We all went into this do-nothing game waiting to see how the Vols cleaned up some of their issues coming out of the Pitt game. I had 5 things that I specifically wanted to look at. Pass rush. I wanted to see an improved pass rush. All right, you got 4 sacks yesterday. We'll discuss how well the pass rush looked. Run game, only 4.3 yards per carry against a pretty bad foe. That worries me. Deep balls, well, you've tried a bunch more with Hooker and a couple with Bailey. You connected on one for 29 yards and touchdown. Penalties, all right, that's good. You went from 13 down to 3. Unfortunately, first play of the game, you negated what would have been a great kick return by Velus Jones. Twisting, turning, diving, spinning. Yeah. He did a great job to get down to the 2-yard line. That came back. And the turnovers, you were 0 for 5 coming in. You were -5 in the turnover category coming in. You got 4 interceptions yesterday. Hendon Hooker lost another fumble. But that improved. Overall, though, there were things I wanted to see. I wanted to see you come out and wax that team. Samford had crushed that team. Furman had beaten that team handily. 56-0, looks like you did that. Mm-hmm. But watching the game, I didn't feel like they did that. Yeah. Did you guys see what you needed to see, what you wanted to see from Tennessee yesterday?
I don't think you did, in the sense that, like you said, you weren't out physically this team. You weren't just dominating this team up front. You scored more points. You scored a lot of them, but your defense got you 4 turnovers, got you close a lot of times. So when I look at this game, I go, I guess that question to me is, where did you want them to see compared to how they're going to do in the SEC? You don't see enough in this game to say you're struggling with this team. Are you going to be any much better in this SEC league? So right now, I just see too much inconsistency and too many have to depend upon these long bombs that you're going to have to depend upon in the SEC to say you can't really get these short yardage runs. It's going to be difficult.
Yeah, out-physicaling is key. You should have been able to push these guys around, and you didn't.
No, you sure didn't on the offensive line. And against a team like Tennessee Tech, you have to grade against the curve a little bit, right?
Yeah.
So your graphics showed that there were some areas where Tennessee did what you would want, and that's the turnovers. But there were other issues that concerned me. And look, you should get more turnovers against a team like Tennessee Tech. You should be able to have fewer penalties in a game like that. But when I look at it overall, I'm thinking, okay, when I look at some of the minuses, like your inability to push at the line of scrimmage, and okay, you're 4 out of 5 on 4th down. Well, why are you having 4th down 5 times in some of those situations? That means you weren't very good on 3rd down. So overall, when I look at that, I'm like, that's not good enough to beat a good SEC team. It's certainly not good enough to beat Florida.
I don't know if it's good enough to beat mediocre SEC teams, and that's where
Maybe.
this season, that's the margin on this season is those 50-50 games. Gentlemen, did you see what you needed to see?
Yeah, like if we were grading, I'd say satisfactory. I mean, you're playing with all due respect, a terrible FCS team. So it comes back to line of scrimmage, Bob, like these guys are talking about.
You know, it's almost, you said you'd give it satisfactory. It's almost pass-fail, you know, and you passed. But I was thinking before you said it, John, the exact same thing. It didn't have the feel of 56-0. You know, it was more like, okay, you're sitting here and you're not smooth. You're kind of chunky in places. Your defense, like Will said, had to set you up a few times. So I just got to go with no. I didn't see what I wanted to see. But the question is, what did you want to see against Tennessee Tech? I mean, it's one of those nothing games. Mm-hmm. You know, you win 56-0. Me.
Yeah, there's not much you can take of a positive from these games, unless you just go out and scorch them. There's just it's negatives that come out. I mean, you lost. You don't know what the injury situation with Kingston Harris is, but that's one more piece that didn't look good leaving the field on your offensive line yesterday. I'm glad that I didn't see other guys leaving the field on crutches and being hobbled, because that's basically all these crummy games are good for against FCS foes. Bob, quickly.
If you had gone into halftime 42-0, and then it ends up 56-0 because everybody on the roster is getting to play, it's a different feel to this.
Great point. Mm-hmm. Gentlemen, did Hendon Hooker show enough yesterday? I think most people on this panel would have made him the starter going into Florida anyway. Is that your feeling coming out of this thing? Josh, I'll start with you on this one.
It is for me. I'm looking at a road game that's coming up and a guy that's now gotten some repetition where we talked about the Pitt game. He didn't have that going in. Mm-hmm. So maybe he was a little cold going in, thought he got better as that game went along. Now he's had a full game to be the guy at quarterback. Now you think about going on the road, which is going to be a tough environment. I want somebody that he's been in there and he's played in big games, which he did at Virginia Tech, and I can trust him a little bit more.
This team hasn't heard a road crowd in 2 years.
Yeah.
So, I mean, that's going to be an issue. Hendon Hooker on that front, he started more games at Virginia Tech than Joe Milton started at Michigan, so he's got a little advantage there. Did you see enough from Hendon Hooker yesterday? What did you think of his performance?
I saw enough to where I would start him. The big knock on him was he had the fumble. I thought he was efficient in a number of ways. He threw 3 touchdown passes. That's a career high. He ran for a touchdown. He is a good runner with the football. He did miss a couple open receivers. He made a really nice pass to Devontae Payton in the far left corner of the end zone on one of those throws. So he showed me enough to where I would start him. Is it good enough to beat Florida? But probably not. But I think he is the more efficient quarterback right now.
Let's go ahead and put the numbers up. Harrison Bailey did get in late, and I know people saw that and went, well, there you go, he's not any good. Did you see who he was on the field with? I mean, he didn't exactly – they waited until the last possible second. I'm not campaigning for him as starter. I didn't see anything that said, see, you've got a Heisman winner on the bench. I did see him uncork one 45, 50 yards. So the arm strength, I'm tired of hearing the arm strength question. But I just – they didn't give him much of a chance, which I thought sent a pretty strong message to the Bailey family. They waited so long to get him in there. Hooker, you know, he's got he's put the ball on the ground 4 times in 3 games, and he's thrown an interception. That's my concern with him. He got hammered on one of the fumbles yesterday. Another one was on the exchange with a running back. So is it the quarterback? Is it the running back? Running back will take the blame. Quarterback will take the blame. But I worry about the turnover situation with Hendon Hooker because it tends to be on the ground a lot when he's in there.
Yeah, that is a concern. And also when he does run, he's one of these guys that takes the shot, right? There's some running quarterbacks that they don't get hit that hard, right? They're always out there running, but they get to the ground or they just are never on the right place. In every single game when he runs, I kind of hold my breath because I'm like, he's about to take a shot from a linebacker or somebody, and he's just one of those guys that gets pounded. And so it's a different kind of runner. You can do it, but you're just more likely to be hurt and them not to make it through this season. So that's why you got to have the backups there. But I think he's enough, like we said, to get to the Florida game and be the starter at this point.
So your starter next week, Bob?
I would start him. He's shown that him and Milton both throw the intermediate pass about the same. I think Hooker looks like a more dynamic runner as far as his quickness is concerned, and I think he's got a better touch on deep balls. I mean, neither one of them have completed a ton of them, but I would go with Hooker, and I would probably have a quick hook.
That's what I was going to ask.
Hooker.
How much does Milton play? I mean, what's the situation that gets Milton in there? Does Hooker get 3 series of suck before Milton goes in, or is it he's our guy? He's our guy for if he's bad the whole first half, he gets the whole first half. What are you doing? What is the Hook situation with Hooker next week?
That sounds like a rain cloud question.
Well, how quick's the very quickly?
I mean, 2 turnovers in the first half. I mean, he's got the second turnover in the half.
And
you're
maybe
out.
Milton's better coming off the bench. Some quarterbacks have proven over the years that let them watch a little bit and then come in.
I go with Hooker because he didn't miss the long ball as much as Milton.
There you
How's
go.
that for positive?
Yeah. All right. By the way, I do want to say this. Yesterday, I put up a tweet after the game just because we watched 4 hours of this, and it's like I learned nothing. This was useless. And I put up a tweet saying fans should stop going to these games. And by the looks of it, a lot of them did yesterday. And I'm talking about fans everywhere. Well, I had a couple of people say, "You sure as Tennessee dominates? Now you say these games shouldn't count." I've hated FCS games since they started them about 10 years ago.
Yes.
Because up until about 10 years ago, you didn't see them. Now everyone plays one. So here's what I would do. If I were czar of college football, great. Everybody gets an FCS game. It's week 1. It's your preseason game. You want to roll your quarterback out there and get their leg blown off in week 1 against Tennessee Tech or UT Martin? Have at it. After that, it's real football the rest of the way. And another thing, no more of this double number stuff. And get off my lawn. When we come back, I have gone back to compare Josh Heupel's use of past quarterbacks to what he's doing this year. Does it tell us anything about his view of this team, specifically the offensive line? And we'll compare Tennessee against Furman and Samford. That's next. Come on back on the Sports Source.